What's good, folks? It's Nightmare Frame here with a new Warframe video, taking a look at the new Khora. She was formerly a pseudo-exalted Warframe, meaning her first ability scaled both with Khora's mods and a stat stick. But with the recent update, it has been converted into its own exalted weapon, meaning it can now be physically modded on the Warframe itself. As you can see on the left side, we have an entire upgrade section for the Whipclaw. Whipclaw did retain most of its stats. We unfortunately did lose a bit of base damage, although with this change, it also changed the way Khora scales. To understand what I mean, let me go over her Whipclaw stats. As we look at the stats, we do have a Whipclaw stance, and these are its base stats. Don't worry about that 3.2, that's from Tenacious Bond. 25% crit chance and status chance. Pretty balanced. And the combo duration is scaled because of Dexterity Arcanes. Now let's talk about how to scale her Whipclaw damage, because it is different from other Exalteds. Again, we go back to the stats. On the damage portion, this is the 100% base value of our Whipclaw. Any mods that we put onto the build will multiply that 100% base value. Meaning, if we take a prime pressure point, this is a multiplier. For base damage, it will multiply that total value. Looking at prime pressure point, it's 165%. When we multiply that, we need to turn this base damage value into a multiplier. So that turns into a 2.65. You multiply 2.65 with 150, you will get 397.5. There you go, simple as that. And prior to this, adding any more strength would increase the base damage on Khora's Whipclaw, and that will be additive to the base damage mods affecting the Whipclaw. So now, if we add strength to Khora, it will give us base damage. However, not the way you would expect. So in the meantime, when we put out this mod, it's a 44%, so that turns into a 1.44 times. And when you multiply that by the base damage that we have, will get 216. So we go back here, and you can see right here, it's 215. We're one off, doesn't matter, but you get the point. Now before, adding prime pressure point will be additive to that base damage. If it was additive, it will be a 3.09 multiplier. And if you multiply that by 150, you would get 463. However, now, base damage mods are multiplicative to strength. So instead of this being 463.5, it's going to multiply the new base damage. And that means if I put prime pressure point onto this build, it will turn this 215 to 569.75. But of course, it will round it up to 0.8. It's fine. You get the point. So this changes everything for the way we know how to mod Khora. Prior to this update, we always modded negative strength on Khora to prioritize a lot of range and focus more on the stat stick to boost its damage alongside the Whipclaw augment. So what I'm going to do now is change the way we mod Khora entirely. We're going to first start off by going to the Helminth, go to our Archon Shards right here, and shove in Strength Shards instead of crit damage shards. So yeah, this is a full 5 Tau Forge Strength Shard Khora, completely different from the old school Khora where we focused on purple shards for the crit damage. All of this is because her scaling changed. So now when we come back here, take that Umbral Intensify and the Strength Shards, we get a whole new base damage multiplier. And of course, Prime Pressure Point will multiply that new base damage. And now you can see my two loadouts here. We have Influence and Exposure. And you'll see that modding for Influence and Exposure are going to be completely different. Guys, we've gone in a complete circle over here with melee influence. Do you guys remember Maiming Strike? Ooh, yeah, that happened. From Maiming Strike to AoE weapons, to then getting Incarnate weapons, and now we're at melee influence. And if you want to mod melee nowadays, just put influence, right? It's the laziest thing you could ever do. But hey, if it works in a power fantasy kabloomy game, go for it. At the end of the day, it's just a game, have fun, do what you want. If I'm running influence, I definitely want to mod it in a different way than I would if I were to go with exposure. So let's first start off with the Helminth in question. I'll be using Roar. Roar is a universal damage multiplier. This also works as a faction damage multiplier. And because I'll be using this with melee influence, it's going to scale those electric procs insanely well. So taking a look at the melee influence build, you can see it looks kind of weird. We have melee influence here, of course, to spread our electricity, but no base damage. Because we already have a lot of strength, we're fine, we don't need to add the base damage, and we have accumulating Whipclaw, which is already 350% base damage, as is. So there's no Arcane Fury and no Prime Pressure Point. Prime Reach and Khora's range go hand in hand, so you get additional range. Blood Rush for a crit chance, Galvanized Steel for crit chance, and some crit damage. This gives us 120% crit damage, and we get close to orange crits with this combination. Weeping Wounds for the status chance, Galvanized Steel for the status damage and status chance. We have 266s here unranked because we don't want too much waiting here. And finally, the Electric mod. Electric is one of the most powerful damage over times in the game. Reason being, it scales with its own element. So the more electric you have, you deal more damage. It's instantaneous when it comes to damage over time, meaning there is no delay. It's AoE, and of course, influence adds on to that AoE. And when you have viral to debuff enemies, so they take more damage, your electric is going to do more damage. On top of that, Roar and Galvanized Elementalist will increase that damage even further. So this is the way you would go for melee influence, which is going to be completely different from how you mod with exposure. Here we are in Steel Path just to show you how this melee influence build works. I'm going to do 2 Void Slings here, give myself some strength. Do a little bit of Roar. Build up some combo. There we go. We're spreading our influence. Look at that. Khora has a larger AoE. And notice, we're also really fast. Because if you have Venari active in a mission, you gain bonus movement speed. And the best part is, that movement speed scales with strength. And look at that, we're already at 12 times combo. Look at this damage spread. Yeah, you don't see this normally on a Khora. But now with melee influence, of course, being almost the staple on every melee build, we can do all of this. Oh, I don't have Roar. Back up with Roar. Notice, we don't even have energy issues, and I'm at base efficiency, and I'm not even running Arcane Energize. If you take a look on the top right corner, I have Archon Stretch and Equilibrium. So we're completely chilling when it comes to energy. Look at that. 1 whip AoE. If we overloaded our damage with a lot of base damage, you won't see too much of influence spreading right now. Beautiful damage. Yes, I know it's not red crits, but hey, you have a bigger AoE now with Khora. So now let's have a look at how we actually mod for exposure. Exposure is going to be completely different. I have melee exposure here for corrosive damage that stacks up to 240%. I have modded it for viral and heat. You can go viral electric, it doesn't really matter because this is not a melee influence build. We have base damage, we have crit chance, crit damage, more crit damage, more crit damage. So this is a one-shot big damage number type of build. It can be used with the same Khora build as well. But first, let's take a look at how we modded our Khora with melee influence. For the arcanes, I have Aegis and Molt Augmented for some shield regen and strength. Strength is currently at 219% with Intensify and the Archon Shards. Those are our modded strength. Conditional strength coming from Molt Augmented, giving us 60% strength at 250 kills. For energy maintenance, I have Archon Stretch for the electric abilities, granting you energy regen over time, Prime Flow for the large energy pool, Equilibrium for the energy and health orb conversion, and yeah, and that's it. For my defenses, of course, you're going to have Prime Redirection and Arcane Aegis. However, for those who want to run Catalyzing Shield, you can do that. And of course, the base damage increase, which is from the Whipclaw Augment. This goes all the way up to 350%. Duration here is primarily only for roar, giving it 46 seconds. The range is at 175% with stretch and auger reach, this combination. Auger reach also converts energy spent into shields, so you're going to see a lot of overshields. Now, the other Helminths that you could run are, of course, Nourish or even Wrathful Advance for people who want to see red crits. But Wrathful Advance is just too much button pressing and it doesn't last as long. So the two best Helminths are Roar and Nourish. The Nourish setup is slightly different. We went a bit more with Strength and Blind Rage because we have negative efficiency from Blind Rage. Nourish will counteract that with the Energy Multiplier. Precision Intensify boosts Nourish even further. And for this setup, I was running Combat Discipline and Avenger to get some additional crits, but I said it wasn't even worth it. You know, it's not worth it. Just go Molt Augmented and run Corrosive Projection and whip enemies. They'll die. You'll be just fine. Now, of course, I do not recommend for you to run the Melee Influence build with Nourish. Go for the exposure instead. And Archon Shards will still trigger even if you're not using your Whipclaw, and that's because of Venari. Venari is a passive ability. That's also a pet that deals damage, so that can trigger Archon Stretch for you. Taking a look at Venari build real quick, it's a simple pet build. We have Tech Assault, Pack Leader for survivability, Tech Assault for 60% chance to avoid a lethal hit, and Linked Redirection. So if you have shields, you put this on, you can give your companion shields. Have a look, Venari has 0 shields. With this on, boom, 1,600 shields. And of course here we got Tenacious Bond to give us crit damage. Taking a look at the Venari claws, you can see it's just modded for electricity here, so it can trigger Archon Stretch for us when it attacks the enemy. Bite, so it can give us Tenacious Bond. Maul, Swipe increases its range, so it can hit a bit more enemies, and just add a bunch of status chance here. Shocking Claws will have your claws prioritize electric damage. As you can see, converts all elemental damage to electric. This way, it's still going to be able to trigger Archon Stretch. Of course, we're building a lot of strength, and Venari will give us that speed multiplier. We can add on to that speed multiplier with our Praetos. Praetos gives us sprint speed, slide, and parkour velocity, so we can be zooming and better bullet jump speed. So Khora is just a lot faster. So Khora doesn't have to stand still in one area. On top of that, the modding is very simple. It has Dispatch Overdrive, Heavy Attack to give us more movement speed, and a bunch of attack speed so we can vault faster. Now, for combo maintenance, I will be running primary and secondary dexterity. So on my primary weapon, I have dexterity. Secondary weapon, I have dexterity. As long as you have those two arcanes on your primary and secondary, you will be fine when it comes to combo maintenance. Our second companion will be the Worm Prime. The Worm Prime here is for additional survivability and some extra perks. So I have the Khora build here. Guardian, negate the staple, assault mode so it can attack, shield charger so it can give me some bonus shields, and regeneration, spare parts for some bonus loot. Synthetic Construct on my Worm and Venari will have additional chances of dropping more health orbs, and that will be converted into energy thanks to Equilibrium. Tenacious Bond does not stack, so that's why I don't have Tenacious Bond on my Worm, and I went with the Tazakor instead of any other weapon to boost crits. And here it just has a simple viral magnetic electric with a bit of radiation. The weapon is innate electric, so it's going to tickle without electric, viral, magnetic, you get it. It's very simple. Lastly, the focus school can be whatever you want, whatever you want. I went with Malray just to give me a bit more strength and casting speed. Otherwise, the next comfortable thing will be Zeneric. And if you're uncomfortable and you want a bit more survivability, you go with Vazarin. Anyway, folks, that has been it from me. I do have enjoyed and learned something from this new Khora. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and
subscriber
for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. To refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace. Bye-bye now. Bye.